Yo, what is going on, guys? Hope you're having a beautiful, beautiful day. I know I am. I know. Dude, it's Christmas. Thanksgiving just went on. We all secured our tickets for Spider Man and No Away Home. And before we get into these two movies, I gotta say real quick is everyone else surprised about how early these showings have started for Spider Man No Way Home? Like,
Love it.
a 3:30 showing, bro.
I
I,
think it makes sense just because of the demand.
yeah, but
Like,
it's
if it
just
was
crazy.
a premiere no one gave a shit about, there'd be one 8 o'clock showing, and that's it.
But think about it, 10 years ago, midnight premieres were the thing, and now those are like think of the past they feel like 20 years ago. But that was only about like 10 years ago. So it's crazy to see like now movie days are pretty much just being released a day before the actual it's kind of weird, not the point, but the real thing is we secured our tickets. And guys, we're coming at you with the review of Spider-Man No Way Home on the 17th of November, the next day. It was going to be spoiler filled, baby. Who knows? It might be 20 hours long. So get your beers, get your bongs, get your toaster strudels, whatever it is. Sit down, relax, have a good time. But without further ado, we're here this week, this Tuesday. We are talking about Spider-Man 2 and 3. And man, Loretto is already trying to start a fight with me behind the scenes. He's telling me how shit my opinions are, and he's just like throwing in my like I can't even tell you how angry it made me. But yes, guys, we are here talking about the two. I'm just gonna say infamous follow-ups to the first movie, but both infamous for two very different reasons. But I'll say this: we'll get into the better of the latter half right now with Spider-Man 2. I feel like this is going to be the most important film in regards to Spider-Man No Way Home. So I feel like I treated this film a little bit more different, a little bit more care to attention, because I feel like when we rewatch these, we tend to drift off a little bit. We don't really pay 100% attention, but this one I want to pay 100%. And you know what? It doesn't work as well as it used to for me anymore. It doesn't hold up as well. I know Loretto is probably just like he wants to cry. He wants to. And I know, Loretto, I'm sorry. But after watching this movie, I find it super awkward that that one still photo from the No Way Home trailer, the very first one of Doc Ock moving, and he looks kind of weird in the face area. I'm watching this movie. I'm like, you watch the bank robbing Banksy. I'm like, dude, that's so obviously just like a flat wall right there. That was green screened in for his tentacles to come in like some fucking 3D ride at Universal. On top of like, this is probably the worst Alfred Molina I've seen in like 3D. I've ever like, bro, this was horrifying. I never want to see 3D Alfred Molina look like this again.
God.
And it's when he takes MJ out of the coffee shop. Like it's so
starting
funny.
off well.
No, we are because I have a lot of good things to say about this movie, but there's a lot of things that I don't like as well. So
we have Matt in the house and we have Amanda in the house, and
bro,
Matt made my night by saying he got his IMAX tickets. Amanda just ruined my night by saying Spider-Man 3 is better.
Yeah, dude, literally. I mean,
she just said she's joking. She just said she's joking.
No, dude, she likes Venom and Venom Let There Be Carnage. She ain't joking. But you know what? I feel like I'm being a little too hard, Loretto. I feel like you should back in some of your hard, stern arguments here.
Loretto, you're up, man.
What? Did he say me?
Yes, bro.
Okay,
you
sorry.
don't like, bro. You don't pay attention.
Sorry, no, I'm
man.
having a conversation with our lovely guests today. So I've seen this movie 100 times. I haven't rewatched it in a while though, admittedly. I will say I want to give props to.
Oh, we lose
okay?
it?
Sorry, thing reacts when I put my charger in. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
All right, cool. My thing is I just love because everybody knows about the set pieces, the big train fight, the big moment where MJ professes her love. There's all these great moments, but I think those moments don't matter without the build-up and the setup. And I think Sam Raimi did such a great job with the first 20 minutes that I got to enjoy right before I hopped on. It's just like Peter Dives touched on this the last time we talked about one, and it was just building up Peter as a human being. You know, seeing him, and I also love the when he first delivers that pizza. I loved how the with Elfman's score and the editing, they made it seem like such a big sweeping superhero
But
moment.
like,
He's on his moped, he almost gets hit by the cab door, and it's so exciting, but he's just delivering a pizza. He's just a normal guy, and it's awesome because you know we admire these heroes, we admire Superman, Batman, whoever, but it's like we got Peter Parker here delivering pizzas. On his way to the pizzas, he like saves some kids from a truck. It's just such a slice of superhero life that you don't often see, and I think it sets up the entire film well, because the entire film is about balancing his life, right? Like,
but hold on, Lo, I'm sorry. You're telling me that it's okay that his job only gave him 4 minutes to go 15 blocks in New York fucking city. Hold up. As a human, they're assuming, right? And it's only then he became Spider-Man to save those children. So if Peter had any fucking common sense about his own well-being and morality, he'd say, no, you know what? That's impossible. I'm not going to do it. Because even if I am Spider-Man, 4 minutes is not enough time. And you know what would have happened? He would have said, no, I quit because this is impossible. I'm not going to waste my energy. And those kids probably would have gotten hit, bro. Think about that.
anyways, you're taking this way out of context. All that I'm saying is it was nice to see our superheroes live a human, normal life.
Thank you, Loretta.
Regardless of the 42 blocks he had to travel in 7 minutes, which is the number that it was. It sounds insane. Also, the surprise birthday. He forgot his freaking birthday. Harry and Mary Jane surprise him at his house.
Dude.
And also shouts out to Rosemary Harris. Like, this is amazing because literally she has like 4 lines in this sequence. It's like a 4-minute sequence, but she pours her soul into this. And I loved seeing that, you know, her house is about to be foreclosed and she gives Peter $20. And it's one of my favorite scenes in the entire freaking trilogy, just because of the connection that Tobey Maguire and her have. She's like, here's some money. Don't you dare leave it here. And Peter was like, no, like, your house is about to be foreclosed. And I just loved how she was like, take it. Like, I'm giving this to you because I can handle it.
Money.
Well, oh yeah, there you go. What'd you say, Dives?
She says, I don't have much. Just take it. Just take
Right,
my money.
right. And she said it with all of her heart. And this is what I'm talking about. Like, Raimi just understood the connections. Like, because to see Aunt May in danger later, and just to see the build up to later.
Did he understand the connections though? Because, dude, fucking MJ is unfucking bearable in this movie. Literally, Sam Raimi made her one of the most unlikable characters in comic book film history, in my opinion. She's an awful person in this film, and she only gets worse in the third film. I don't want to spoil my thoughts on her in the third film just yet, but this second film is just awful. And plus, the second and third film also suffer because I don't really get like what their relationship is between the three of them, Harry, MJ, and Peter. Because in that first movie, it's very obvious that they're 18 because they graduate within like the first 30 minutes. They're 18 years old, and he first meets Harry's dad, Norman, for the very first time. And Norman talks about him being kicked out of other private schools before he went to the school they're at now, right? But then you get into the second and third film, and they're both talking about how your father would be proud of you, how they're so how they've known each other for so long, and how they've seen each other grow up. And I spoiled this for the third movie too, because it's hard to say, because both movies suffer from this, and it really disconnects me from it. And it starts in this film because in the very beginning, with the scene you're talking about, Loretta, with them celebrating Peter's birthday, none of it really makes sense if you think about it. At the end of that first movie, MJ essentially left Harry, and then MJ essentially got stood up by Peter or fucking denied. He's like, no, bitch, you ain't getting my penis today. He said no, right? And so now all of them are just all friendly again. And like, it's weird. I don't sense that there's any distrust in anything other than, oh, Spider-Man killed my father. And you know what? I'll leave that argument for later in this conversation.
So hold on, because I got to hear
being
Dive's
a
thoughts on
bitch.
as we ruminate here. But really quickly,
No.
my thing is, okay, look, they grew up together. The three of them, That makes sense to me.
But did they in that first movie? They didn't grow up together. That's my point. But they say they grew up together in the second and third movie.
I think it's pretty explained that he lived right next to her, the girl next door.
Those two, yeah. But I'm talking about Harry.
Well, I mean, regardless, like I think especially for Peter, he doesn't have a lot of friends. He has them. And for me, like I had friends or whatever, but
she
when
wasn't
I
even.
when I go back to my bestest high school friends, I will always look at them with regard, whether or not we've.
But they weren't high school friends. That's my
years.
point.
It's just one of those things where I don't know. To me, but
MJ wasn't his high school friend. They weren't friends until after high school. They just had a few interactions in high school with him doing the cool fucking trick with the tray and shit. But that's about it. That's my point. So that whole it completely disregards the entire first movie setup about their relationships.
Well,
because
here, let me say this because I have one thought, and I also want to hear what Dives thought because he's been quiet the whole time.
Yeah, he's been going back and forth. I'm very confused at which points he. Yeah,
really quickly. My thing is, so regardless of the high school friendships, relationships, I agree that is a little choppy. But what I want to say is, because I personally like Kirsten Dunst as MJ. So my thing is, she gets denied in the cemetery. It's been 2 years now, okay? 2 years of these two obviously like each other. They had the moment in the hospital in the first film, and they obviously have feelings for each other because the way he looks at her, the way she looks at him, she was there outside the street, after the birthday, and she touched his face, and she's like, Peter, do you have anything to say to me? And it's like obvious they're looking at each other with love and adoration, but Peter sticks to his guns, like, you know what? I can't do this with you. I am Spider-Man. You don't know this. Yeah. And then she walks away like, you know what? I'm going to see somebody else because and it sucks and it's kind of messed up, but I don't look at her negatively because she's been waiting for 2 years and this guy obviously likes her and he's not doing anything. So I think
but then what does she do? She gets back at Peter by using a man who is obviously way better than Peter, in my opinion. Like, bro, you should be with J. Jonah Jameson's son, bro. He's better looking. He's got money. Like, he's everything, sweetheart. He treats you better. He shows up in time. He's been to your show. Like, in this movie, it's given me every reason not to cheer for this man. So by the end, she goes on to leave their wedding.
I think you're missing the podium. Biggest point, Ryan. You're the biggest point of this entire first two movies, and yeah, especially the first two, is the points going way over your head. Is that these are flawed characters. And you're not getting it, man. Like MJ is flawed, Peter is flawed, Harry is flawed. I don't think you got that because I think MJ has her.
I get it, but I don't.
She's definitely one of the worst parts of this movie, like Matt said in this comment, and Amanda says leave MJ alone. But you have to kind of understand that too. Is that every character here has their strengths and weaknesses.
But that's the thing. It's okay to be flawed, but there's characters that can still be flawed that we can still care about. That's the problem. She's a flawed character that I don't care about. They give me no reason to care about her when she goes on to just completely try and get back at Peter. If anything, I'm feeling bad for Peter, and I'm feeling bad for the guy that she's just using because she straight up just says, "Peter, kiss me."
I disagree. I disagree. I think
so annoyed.
Peter is doing it to himself, and I think that's the beauty of Spider-Man 2. These are instantly relatable and flawed superheroes dealing with real life problems. You look at Peter; he's struggling with grades. He's completely broke. His job with the Daily Bugle is constantly in danger. He's riddled with guilt because Uncle Ben being murdered. His best friend secretly hates him, even though he doesn't know it yet. I love the fact that all this emotional weight is pressing down onto Peter's shoulders in this one. That basically culminates into Peter losing his Spidey powers here. And basically, I think the entire film is about mourning and how we accept it. You see kind of Peter lose his powers, and then he finally earns them back when he accepts that guilt. So I think Spider-Man 2 is just why it's so good for me is that it's like that week in the life of what it means to be Peter Parker. Peter comes first in this movie while plot and everything else comes second. And you look at the first Spider-Man, it's a character first movie, epic summer blockbuster second. And when you kind of deep dive into this a little bit further, is that inner conflict of Peter is just so interesting for me, because Peter doesn't even want to be Spider-Man anymore in Spider-Man 2. But instead, he kind of has to. You know, being Spider-Man is the reason why his life is so shitty right now in Spider-Man 2. He wants to stop, but because of his responsibility, with great power comes great responsibility. You know, I love that amazing conflict that Peter is going through. And I think that's what makes the Spider-Man alter ego so fascinating, because he has this Spider-Man alter ego thrust upon him, and it literally just wrecks every single ounce of his entire personal life in Spider-Man 2. And I think that's what makes it, for me, one of the most memorable superhero movies, because the characters come first, just like I said in the last review, and then the action in the story comes second. It's really one of the first superhero movies to really deep dive into that human condition, which was basically unheard of at the time. And I think you're missing the point, Ryan. Like, even I agree, MJ is not, you know, she didn't get as much screen time and as much motive as she should have. But for me, you know, I look at Peter, I look at MJ. You know, Peter's doing this to himself, and that's why it's so fascinating. So that I don't blame MJ for her decisions.
But then that's the thing. Like, I understand all the tones. I understand all the subtext. I get what they're trying to tell us. I understand how everything connects and intertwines with one another. My issue is the casting. They don't have these three people that work well off each other. I don't believe that Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst would work out together, actually be dating. Funny enough, they didn't, and I can totally see why. They don't work together. They have no on-screen chemistry, and that goes the same way with him and fucking Dave or James Franco. They have no chemistry either. I think this. I'm gonna spoil this for the third movie, but I think their best scene is when he loses his fucking memory in the third movie, and Peter brings it back from the hospital, and they play like the dribble ball in the hallways. I think that's like what I wish their relationship was like, or how they fucking like they something along that line. I wish, not this super bitter baby banter after being told a number of times that he didn't kill him. When, let's be real, he didn't even see him kill him. All he did was put his body down. So he's just making false assumptions. So why would you also make false assumptions over this guy who's just been very good? Like, I don't know. I just think he's a bit of a bitch in this movie, and it's really annoying because he's letting his feelings get the best of him. And I'm not trying to say that that's not like what we do, because we all do that sometimes.
The anti-Spider-Man, right? Because
Huh?
Spider-Man does the exact opposite of that. Spider-Man refuses to let his emotions take over. He is Spider-Man. He makes the bigger decision here and hides and buries his emotions. James Franco does the opposite, right?
No, yeah. And they're like, they want you to build off this connection of, oh, I've known you for 15 years. We have already discussed that, like, conceptually it already doesn't work in the timeline that they've already built. But then I already don't believe it anymore because their chemistry on screen just doesn't work. I don't believe that they're friends in real life. I don't believe that him and MJ are dating in real life. I don't believe the three of them would be friends. All three of them seem like very different people, and none of them connect in any way.
I disagree.
And but that's the thing. I think the writing is good, Deebs. That's the unfortunate part. I think the writing is there. There's no problem with the writing. I think it's the performances and the connections.
Yeah, I see all three as outcasts. You know, I see we talked about this. I see three. You look at Peter; he's been outcast his whole life. Now that he has powers, he's even a more outcast because he can't do anything about it, especially among his friends or his personal life. And then you look at James Franco. Oh God damn, Harry? Jesus. You look at him like he's jumped school to school, school to school, school to school.
Most people don't like the rich kid.
There is, like, when it comes to, like, bouncing from school to school, like, you look at the research, like, that is a major contributor to a lot of shit mental health wise for a lot of different reasons when it comes to being a kid. Then you look at MJ, clear probably trauma past, abusive father, alcoholic father, really a lot of domestic issues within her family unit. She has a lot of fake friends because she's like the pretty girl next door. but none of them are real. They're all probably fucking fake. So I see all three of those, and MJ is probably smart enough to realize that. So I see all three of those as outcasts, and MJ likes Peter because he looks at her in a different light than everyone else she's ever met. So that's how I look at it.
I get it. I do. I get it all. I want you guys to know that. I truly want you guys to know that. I will say though, just I don't like her. I'm just like, you guys would all just, this is like a toxic relationship. You guys just are better off without each other. Like literally, Peter literally needs to take a break.
In real life, that's a real relationship though. People have toxic relationships. People have, issues with one another in their life, but that doesn't mean they separate. That just, everyone has that friend that's in a toxic relationship that they're not good for each other, yet they still love each other. And you're just happy that they're happy. Just saying.
I don't get it, bro.
I don't think that's a toxic relationship at all, by the way.
I don't know. It makes him lose his powers. I firmly believe, I know that they give like a multitude of reasons in this movie, but let's be real. The main fucking reason's MJ in this movie. She's like, bro, if we saw the one woman we wanted to be with get married, like, bro, that'd be a
Peter said no to her. Peter said no to MJ. And
I don't blame him.
But why are you blaming MJ for walking away?
No, I'm not blaming her for walking away. I'm blaming her for using the guy she walked away with, or that she got, to get back at Peter or try to get with Peter by using him. That is my issue.
I don't see it that way. Because the way I saw it was, if Peter doesn't come around, she's safe and she's happy with John Jameson. That's the way I saw it.
So this is the way I see it. She dates him, right? They yada yada yada. She hints at Peter about wanting to be in a relationship, yada yada yada. He proposes, they're engaged, yada yada yada. She asks Peter to kiss him. Or kiss her, I mean. Or no, before that, sorry, I got the scenes mixed up. Before that, she does the tilt the head back to see if it's the same thing as kissing Spider-Man from the first movie, right? Goes being like, Peter, kiss me, and then Dr. Octopus. And I'm like, why do to just kiss you? Why couldn't you do this before? Like, I'm sure you kissed this dude when you're in a relationship, but you're like, I don't know. It might not be a whole difference, but I feel like relationship and engagement, two very different phases, and even engagement to marriage are two different phases. And Deeps, I'm sure you know my man and shit like that. So it feels very awkward for her to do this at an engagement stage. If it was more like they just started in a relationship, I would feel a lot better with that, just from a story and conceptual wise. And guys, I know I feel like I'm looking a little too in depth in this. This is just my writer side coming out. I'm sorry, because personally, I feel like they could have tightened it up a little bit more. There's a lot of loose ends that are just loose ends, and I could go backwards and try to figure it out, but I really just be left on a stump.
To be fair, like Sam Raimi had the fourth movie in the works. That was happening, right? Like that was in the works.
Yeah.
There was a shit storm on him with the third movie, which we'll get into. But yeah, I like, in terms of like issues with this film, MJ's not nearly on my list. She did not pull me out of this movie whatsoever, for me at least.
But Loretta, you just look like you're about to rip my fucking throat out. That's all I'll say.
No, you're good, man. This is why film is so divisive and subjective, right? Regardless if it's Spider-Man or some other fucking indie classic film. But I just think I agree with Dubs. Like, MJ does not affect my adoration or negative feelings of this film at all. But yeah, so no, I'm just trying to think. What's our next step here? Are we gonna?
Oh no, I'm trying to find my phone real quick, but
Are we
Fuck it.
gonna?
I thought it was in front of me, but I do want to talk about something I do really like, and that's fucking Alfred Molina, my
Yeah.
guy. He
Thank
class act. I I'm hoping from the trailers we've seen in No Way Home, they're kind of keeping this kind of Otto that we know, the one who still has that caring side to him and isn't that brutal, always that brutal, or the Otto that gives the speech to Peter in the beginning. Oh my God, I'm sitting on it. I'm so stupid. That's besides the point, though. You know what I do got to say to that, bro? Otto, he he was he was what Kirk Connors wanted to be in the Amazing Spider-Man one. That's all I'm gonna say.
We agree with that.
That's what that really feels like ultimately. We'll get that to it next week. You guys know the vibes, motherfucker. But you know what I gotta say to all this? I love the relationship that they build up in the beginning. And you know what? I like that they didn't go the full villain route like they did with the last one, to where the point where, you know what's funny, this movie has a theme, or like the trilogy, all the villains kill themselves. Green Goblin killed himself, Doc Ock killed himself,
Yep.
Venom killed himself,
Even yeah,
even Harry.
Yeah, remember Peter even saved Eddie from you know, when
He jumped back in and killed. Yeah,
literally
he literally
tried to save Eddie. That's a major theme in No Way Home, by the way.
Yeah, they even say it in the trailer, they all die at the hands of Spider, which I found kind of odd because I'm like, not really. I'm like, let's be real. The Lizard didn't die. Sandman didn't
That's what
die.
makes Spider-Man so great, is that
I
even like he will save his enemies.
the only one that I think a Spider-Man actually killed was Electro, technically, in Amazing Spider-Man 2. Out of all the ones that are coming back, I think that's the only one that technically died by the hands of Spider-Man. Norman Green Goblin killed himself. Doc Ock killed himself. Venom killed himself. Harry killed himself. Lizard survived.
Well, no, never mind. Forget it. Never mind.
Harry in Amazing Spider-Man 2 survived. Rhino survived. Electro kind of just got exploded. I don't know if that's gonna be like an actual death or something. Maybe that's how their kind of explanation for the multiverse. Who really knows? But yeah, I really like Alfred Molina's fucking classic in this role, and I just love the road he goes on and the relationship he has with Peter. And I really like the reveal when he finds out who Spider-Man is, that Peter's Spider-Man, and he kind of gets like this enlightened feeling, and you see this, and it's like, wow, I like, these are the fucking moments I like, and it's good writing, good acting, everything just coming together so beautifully, and I really hope they continue that with Alfred Molina in No Way Home. What about you, Deebs?
Yeah, I mean, this was an elite level villain. This was Thanos before, you know, Thanos happened to the MCU. Like his, you know, this pathetically sympathetic villain where he loses his wife. That's not really his fault, but he's suddenly this crazy bad guy. His mind is all warped. He's also pretty scary, which, you know, summary, like some of Sam Raimi's horror elements are in this, especially with Doc Ock, and they really shine. But I love how like Doc Ock, he's not afraid to like hurt people in his way, and he comes close to even killing Aunt May. He's just like this really complex, scary bad guy, where it's just wildly entertaining. To go back to that horror element, that scene where he's inside the hospital and his tentacles are like literally just going all over the place. That allows Raimi's horror roots to really shine. That was that Evil Dead moment of this film, and that was truly one of my favorite parts of this movie. And I don't know if like any other, like as much as I love, you know, Infinity War and Winter Soldier, like that moment for me is to this day one of my favorite scenes in any comic book movie. It is terrific. It's just Raimi and Doc Ock just shining. I love that scene. So Doc Ock was great because that sympathetic villain. It's everything I want. Not Mr. Frost. What's the Batman villain? Oh my god, I'm out of it tonight. The sympathetic villain, not Sub-Zero. I'm trying to
Mr. Freeze.
Mr. Freeze. Oh my god.
Oh, I was so confused at who you're trying to talk
some
about.
sort of version of like this. With
The movie was called Sub-Zero.
Damn. But Loretta, before we get to you, I gotta say one pet peeve I have with that train fight scene. And you guys are really gonna
What?
want to like no, dude. You guys are gonna hate me when I say this. When I say it's a pet peeve, like I mean it's a literal pet peeve. Like the smallest thing in the fucking world you guys can imagine. Are you ready for this?
No.
The one thing that bothers me about the train fight sequence in this movie is there in a never in 100 billion years would there be an outside train track system in the middle of Manhattan. Dude, it's absolutely absurd. And they would never let a train go that far with no like I'm disappointed with the New York City subway system.
That's not even like the greatest part of that about that scene.
That's my point though. It's like the itty bittiest little fucking nitpick. That's just like my New York side. I'm sorry. It's a bother, but Loretto, you look annoyed, so I'll let you brine this up a little bit.
Oh yeah, no, we're good. To be honest, Dibes said it really well. Alfred Molina is just great. Literally right before we hopped on, they were having dinner and the wife was serving them food and it's just like you're saying too, Rye, seeing like Peter and Octavius nerd out. Like I don't know what the hell they're talking about, but just hearing them bounce all these scientific jargon off of each other and it's natural. I think what's interesting is I agree with you about maybe some of Toby's chemistry with the other actors, but his chemistry with Alfred Molina was great. Like there was a relationship there that felt real, almost like a mentor type of thing. And I think that's why the film works so well for me, because you see Octavius's descent into madness. And I want to highlight, you mentioned the hospital scene, Dives, but I also like the scene when he's breaking out of the hospital and it's like the way it's lit and he's wearing the hospital gown and he's like going through the streets. Like it just looks like this crazed, like wild man with like these things hanging on his back, walking through the streets. And the way it's shot is so beautiful. Also when he finds his lair and he decides like what he's gonna do, and then his like tentacles lift him up and he's like levitating almost. I love that shot as well. Yeah, honestly, he's one of my favorite villains of all time. And it's interesting because not so much, I mean, yes, sympathetic, but more so because you get his character. Like you get why he's upset, you get why everything went wrong. Like you understand his motivations, and I think that's what makes villains so powerful. So I will say, as much as I love this sequence, because I knew we were going to get there, eventually. The train fight starting from the bell tower is one of the most exhilarating, like straight off the page kind of comic scenes I've ever seen in my life. And this happened back in 2004, and we're still talking about it to this day. But I will say there is some rough spots, and that's just the technology at the time was as far as it could go. Like particularly when he breaks the clock hand and throws it at Spider-Man. He looked a little wonky. It looked like a digital figurine. So, but that aside, though, just the heart of that fight, the brutality, the choreography, Spider-Man using the webs to save people while the train is moving, them being on the train, out the train, on the side of the train, and just leading up to when the people lift him up, when Spider-Man has had it, he's beaten, he's defeated, and seeing the people in New York lift him up. For me, it's more thematic versus, is there really a subway track outside of New York? I don't know. I don't live in New York, so I get if you're peeved, but it doesn't bother me. I'm just admiring the community lifting their hero and the kid giving him the mask back, and
that's it.
That gives me hope, and that that brings me joy. Like,
oh no, I wouldn't trust any of those motherfuckers.
But it's all about the people, baby, and that's
I still wouldn't trust them.
New
York pride all you want. I wouldn't trust them motherfuckers. That's all I know.
that was the best moment, Loretto. You literally stole it. I had it right in my notes here.
Sorry, I had to take it there, man. I'm just like, we're practically dumping on it right now.
You absolutely crushed it. Is that scene where Spider-Man's literally exhausted fighting this villain, and he saves the train in one of the best comic book scenes ever, and he loses his mask, and the people carry him, and they're like, he's just a kid, and they're like, we'll protect your identity. Like that was just a heroic moment, not just for Peter, but for like people, and it was just so full of hope and optimism and joy. It was awesome. I loved that moment.
Also, we got to remember the context too, because this was totally
9/11.
post 9/11. So
Totally.
just
Well, they changed a lot of that first movie because of 9/11.
Do you remember the
Yeah.
trailer?
A lot of the
Remember-
marketing, the trailer, even the posters with the twin towers and stuff.
yeah,
like
with the
that.
web in the middle.
Yeah, with the web middle holding the helicopter, and they even changed the whole third act of that first film, like the whole them bantering, like cheering. New York throwing the things at Goblin. That was all edited in post 9/11 for like more New York pride and stuff like that. And you get more than this movie. I think it had just good reception from that first movie. But the thing I gotta say about just the Raimi movies is I feel like the first two don't have very strong third acts. I'll leave that about the third one for now, but I feel like these first two movies don't have very strong acts. Like we spoke about this last week with that first movie. I only really enjoyed it up until the entire fact of them doing that actual one-on-one fighting, brutal fight in this broken down building. Like that's the only part of that third act that I really did enjoy. And then this one, it's kind of a pretty minimalistic fight, and then you got this really cool big power conversion generator that heats up as hot as the sun right in front of you, and you're like, wow, this is really cool. I wonder what they're gonna do. Like it makes sense, but it's just not cool. It's kind of just lackluster and just leaves you like kind of wanting more from a third act. But I guess you kind of get that after coming off of the train fight, which, you know what? They should have just made the train fight the third act and then lead into that. Go ahead.
Can I speak on that?
No.
And you can take this as you will, because again,
I
this is
will.
all subjectivity. We're all subject to our own opinions. So I don't blame you for not being excited, right? But for me, this is actually why, fun fact, I prefer Kill Bill Volume 2 over Kill Bill Volume 1.
Sure.
It has an anticlimactic ending, a 2-second fight, but it's not about the fight. It's about the relationship. So for me, for Peter to save Mary for the 5 millionth time, for her to actually see him with the mask off, and for her to have that realization, like, all this time, Peter, this is why you can't be with me, or you try not to be with me. You try to hide and be so secretive. And then, between Octavius and Peter, like, Peter is what's brought Octavius back to reality, and he was able to redeem himself. And maybe not in the best way, but in the only way he knew fit. Like, I love this line when he realizes who Peter is. He's like, brilliant but lazy. Don't worry, I got this. We got to drown the sun thing in the river. And he says, like, he's tearing it down, I will not die a monster.
So good.
And it's just what brings his whole character full circle. And for me, I didn't need to see them fight again, because we saw them fight already. It wasn't about the fight. It was about the relationships between Octavius and Peter. Peter helping Octavius with his redemption, and Mary Jane realizing Peter Parker. Spider-Man's Peter Parker. And all of that was just surrounded by the big sun thing, but it was all about the relationships at that point, for me.
But
and
then
that was satisfying to me.
That's when you run into the problem, because by the time you get to the third act, I'm like, bro, just fucking kill MJ at that point. I really don't care. Honestly, it'd be better for everyone. Everyone in the movie. Honestly, it'd be better for everyone. Honestly, if I was Peter, I would just go there, stop Doc Ock, have that whole fight, stop him, have that whole emotional arc, and be like, yeah, you know what? Bye, MJ. Let her go down with Doc Ock at the end. Just say fuck it. Like, no, we're done, sweetheart. You're done fucking with me. You're done fucking with J. Jonah Jameson's son. You're done fucking with the audience. No, bro, we're not going to save you 5 more times in the third movie. It's not happening. But you know what? They didn't do that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Loretto wholeheartedly, because you already heard my comments. Like, characters first, drama first. It's not like Spider-Man set this up to begin with. I don't know why we're like so shocked that the third act of Spider-Man 2 isn't this like horrible CGI fest like Spider-Man 3 is.
No, I'm not trying to say that it's boring, because there's no fight or no CGI or anything really action-packed. I'm not invested in half of the reason he's there. That is my issue. So half of the entire third act is developed around a character I want to see die. Like,
Oh,
and
man.
then the one that does die is the one I'm like, oh man, I didn't want you to die. Like, bro, like that's where my conflict arises. It's like, bro, you guys know, like, if there's a good story, if there's not a lot of action, like Ant-Man, honestly, there's not a lot of action in it. I'd say there's a lot more of just like jumping up and down and going to these cool, massive places when you're small. But like, it's pretty minimalistic in its approach to action. It might have a lot of CG because of the whole idea of who the character is, but it's a pretty minimalistic fighting movie. But it has such a good story, and that's kind of what I'm not trying to compare both the movies. If that's what you're trying to say, if that's what you guys are thinking, I'm just trying to give like a sense of the idea I'm trying to create with my third act.
I have a side note,
Problem.
side question for you, Rye.
Yeah,
Because offline we were talking about the animated series, right?
yeah.
And look, regardless of whether or not you like Kirsten Dunst or how her character was written, I gotta ask you though, at the very, very end of this film, when she walks in with her wedding dress, but he's got to go, and it zooms in on her, and she says, "Go get him, Tiger."
It's so good.
Like,
So,
come on, man! Like,
so
that is Spider-Man,
so
baby. Like,
Loretta, you brought up a funny thought in my head
cherry on
because
the cake for me, man.
as I'm watching the second and third movie, I don't know if you guys have ever realized this, but like that window, the door that opens both ways that he jumps out of as Spider-Man is an actual door. Like, it's not a window. There's nothing blocking his hips. So you can literally just walk right out of it. So it's kind of fucked up that I thought about this, but this is how much I didn't like the character in this movie. That when she ran to him, I'm like, Trip on Marbles, fall out the door. Come on, come on, come on. But
Yeah, I totally different experiences. I remember watching this in the theater. MJ is on a list she's not on a list of.
she should be
the
the hit
movie.
list.
There was so many great things about this movie. I think that hold up really strong. And there's a lot of things that Marvel I think has used in this film that have shown to be extremely effective. So I agree. When it comes to Spider-Man 3, which we'll talk about, but MJ is not in it. It's a non-issue for me. It didn't take me out of the movie. That moment where she realized that he's Peter Parker was absolutely like, stop your breath, holy shit moment at the time when I was a kid back in 2004. So I was like first year in college around there. So it was just epic. As a guy who watched Spider-Man, the animated series and all that, go get him, Tiger. Like, that was just epic.
Because up until that point, she never said it, and that was so relevant in the comic and in the show.
It was Avengers Assemble before Avengers Assemble.
And
Doc Ock was Thanos before Thanos, and so forth.
So, guys, yeah, without further ado, I say we just get into scores for Spider-Man 2. Loretto, why don't you hit us with it? What is your score for Spider-Man 2, my man?
Oh, come on, guys.
No, you come on.
No, but to be honest, up until The Dark Knight, guys, Spider-Man 2 was my favorite comic book film. To this day, it's still in my top 3. Actually, no, I'm sorry. It's still my number 2. Dark Knight and Spider-Man 2 are my favorite comic book films of all time, and I will die on that hill. Nothing like it. There's nothing like that experience for me for the first time. Whether it was the train fight or the Danny Elfman score for the final swing or just seeing Peter Parker be Peter Parker. It resonated with me. Raimi understood the assignment. He understood the character, and he literally brought the Spider-Man comics to life for me. The Spider-Man No More shot with the suit in the trash can. It was just chef's kiss for me. I don't know. I don't have much issue with the film. It's one of my favorites of all time.
Oh no, all I know for your 40th birthday is I'm getting you a day 1 edition of the very first comic book so you can have sex with it. Wait, what was your score again though? 9.6?
Oh hell no, man. Full 10.
Full
That's a 10 out of 10 for me.
Wow. Okay. What about you, Deebmeister? Deebler?
Let's go at 9.5. I'm not gonna give it a 10. I give very rare amount of movies a 10, but this is a solid 9.5. Top 3 Spider-Man for me. If it wasn't for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, this is the best Spider-Man movie, period, for me at least. And like I said, circle back, characters first. What makes Spider-Man such an interesting character and superhero is the personal stuff. It's the personal journey. It's the dynamics. So I love that Sam Raimi understood that. The build-up between Spider-Man to Spider-Man 2 was absolutely nailed out of the park, especially with him and MJ. I loved it, Ryan. I'm sorry. I really did. And Doc Ock, having those horror elements implemented with Dr. Octopus, Octavia Octopus, like that was just so good. And for me, 9.5. We'll see where No Way Home impacts this score because I will take this over Far From Home. I will take this over Homecoming, and that's not even a question in my mind. Not even like they're like, and when I say like, they're tears. It's tears better than those movies. Tears.
I'll take this over them all.
Yeah.
Bring it on.
You guys are definitely not going to be happy with me. That's all I'll say.
Oh, I know your ranking. It's fine. I know which one is your favorite. So we'll get there. We'll get
No,
there.
no, definitely. But I gotta say, I'm gonna give Spider-Man 2 a 7.5. Yeah, I'm gonna go a little bit low on it. Definitely a little controversial, but you know what? I think we should harmonize a little bit, boys. We should harmonize in dissing Spider-Man 3 for whatever it was trying to be. And yeah, guys, so I guess this is my poorly introduced transition into Spider-Man 3. Yeah, we're talking about Spider-Man 3, guys. 2006, Sam Raimi again, same cast, unfortunately for some people. But you know what? Let's just get right on into it. You know what? This is the first Spider-Man film. Peter's happy in the beginning. He's living his life. He's with MJ. He's putting a baby or two in her. Who really knows at the end of the day? They're having the time of their life. He's putting his spider webs all over her. That's all we got to say to that. But you know what? We got multiple villains, bro, in this one. We got Sandman. We got Venom. And we got Bitch Goblin, as I like to call him. I like to call him Bitch Goblin. And Loretta, I was telling Deebs this before you got on, before we started the show, but this movie does not hold up as well as I thought it did either. I think the Sandman stuff holds up very well. Like, I still really like that scene when he first transformed into the Sandman and he's trying to pick up the picture of his daughter. And I don't know about you guys, but I rewatched the editor's cut this time, and there's an extended scene in this movie or that version with his daughter by a beach in New York. I think it's like Whitestone or something. And since he's made of sand, he just has this one little sand pile because he deformed there and made a sand castle for his daughter. And she has her medical problems in this movie and stuff. And they kind of do a heart-to-heart moment where they do like their palms touch in the sand. And it's a really nice and warming moment. And it's that's the most unfortunate problem with this movie is the thing that I really liked about this movie was Sandman and his whole arc, besides from him being the actual killer for Uncle Ben. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I think his arc really worked, but it got really put on the back burner because Sony wanted Venom in this movie. Mm-hmm. And it's unfortunate because, dude, it's such a good performance. It's such a good, I don't even want to say villain because he's kind of in the same boat as Doc Ock. Well, even more sympathetic to a certain extent because he's got such a hard life with his daughter in this medical reason. He's literally just trying to steal to fix his daughter. And I know the both of you would probably do anything for your daughter. Mm-hmm. So watching that is why I just like, yeah. And like, I don't remember, but they don't specifically say do they say what it specifically is?
No, she's sick, right, Loretta?
She's just sick, I think. But
yeah, they don't really specify.
But like you can visibly see that she's ill enough to a point where she it might be life threatening. You know what I mean? So who knows? He might be on the time clock, and I really wish that they spend more time with that and kind of said fuck Venom. Because we'll get into Venom as well, but we'll stick to Sandman right now. What do you guys think about Sandman? And I want to say one more thing is, man, I'm glad they bring him back, but I'm also kind of concerned because I think they put a nice bow tie on his ending in this movie of him kind of just fading off into the sunset as he drifts as grains of sand. I'm just like, wow, That really hits. That's the one thing that I will say, like I said before, is I don't think the first two movies had the best third acts, but I think this one does have the best third act. It has the emotional punches that you need. It has the kind of the culmination of all the. I think it has a good culmination of all the storylines coming together, regardless of how many they are, and regardless of how I feel about each individual one. I think the way that it got there felt very natural, and it felt like, yeah, this is a way into a third act, and I really like the setting. And it seems like they're going back to those kind of roots with No Way Home, with that second trailer we've seen on a bunch of skyscrapers and stuff. But sorry for bullshitting after telling one of you to speak, but go ahead, Deebs. What are your thoughts on Sandman in this movie?
Yeah, and shout out to Christopher Young, who did the score to that, the birth of Sandman scene. He did the score of that, and that was not Danny Elfman. And I thought that was by far probably one of the most effective scenes in this movie. And you could easily tell that Sam Raimi loves Sandman way more than Venom in this movie. It was like blatantly obvious, to the point where, Peter transforms into, he's got the symbiote and he's dancing and dressing in black and messing up his hair. And like, I don't know, I thought that it almost feels like just a slap in the face to the studio for making him to, force this character upon him. But Sandman was really interesting for me. It was a good character. I liked even the action scenes here. It's pretty clear that like this movie could have been so much better had they maybe set up Eddie Brock in the first and second movies and used kind of like Sandman as like the muscle, as like the guy that like the number two for Harry becoming the new Goblin, and make the third movie all about the new Goblin, with the Sandman being his like right-hand man. And then you tie it all the way, but you circle back with Uncle Ben. That would have been such a more effective movie than you throw Venom into Spider-Man 4. That is what they should have done here in this film. But like you guys said, there's just way too many issues with this movie. The character arcs were not good here. You had Harry's butler waiting until the end of the movie.
Dude, don't start me with that.
What are we doing, guys?
You literally had like 5 fucking years to tell him. You literally could have prevented so much shit. Like the amount of embarrassment I have felt for a lot of these characters could have been preserved for other people and myself, even possibly, if this butler wasn't so fucking awfully incompetent.
Yeah, it was bad. It was really, really bad. I personally did not like the idea of retconning Sandman as the guy that killed Uncle Ben. Obviously, there's way too many villains. I didn't like that we had another love triangle with MJ. There were so many scenes where they're like doing the twists and stuff. There's just a lot of waste. There's a lot of shit and a lot of waste that could easily been taken out of this movie. And the central story for me did not progress at all. Like, it was taking a lot of the characters' relationships and then putting them back through those same spin cycles, which was just like a rehash of the second movie, which I understand because the second movie was so amazing. But however, it didn't push these characters forward at all. And even Peter took a step back in this movie for me. So this is not, like my man Christian here said Spider-Man 3 is better than people think. I don't think it's a terrible movie, but I don't think it's like BVS or like, Suicide Squad level bad, but it's definitely mediocre as it gets for me.
There's one line in this movie that really bothers me. And it's after Spider-Man encounters Sandman for the first time after the Spider-Man Day festival. And he's like on the rooftop, he's taking all the sand out of his suit and shit. And he says, where the hell do all these guys come from? And I sat there. I literally paused the fucking. Okay, there's two times in this movie I literally had to pause to say, what the fuck? And this is one of the moments. I'm like, bro, what do you mean? Where do these guys come from? You literally fucking, one was your best friend's father. The second one, you were literally there when he was created. And this is literally fucking the third villain you've run into with special powers other than Harry, who's got the same reason as his dad. You know what I mean? It's a very stupid line for this character. Like, bro, Harry, use your fucking brain for a change, bro. Like, come on. How are you running this company and having all these great ideas that we see you do in the second movie, and you just act like you sound like a fucking idiot. You sound like a fucking idiot. I'm sorry, Peter. You sound like an idiot. That's all I'm gonna say on that. But Deebs,
I actually like that a lot.
Yeah.
It literally felt like Sam Raimi was so pissed off over what the studio was enforcing on him with Venom that like he like took out like half of the script from the movie, and
you can tell he didn't care.
Like,
you can tell.
And Peter's like playing the jazz flute on the piano. Like, what are we doing here? Like, what is that? Like, the tone shift was so bad. It felt like a slap in the face of the studio. That was not Sam Raimi. Like, Sam Raimi is like super lighthearted with a lot of horror elements in the first and second movies. This was like slapstick. This was like, I don't know what that was. It was just so not Spider-Man for me. I don't know if that was done intentionally or what. What do you think, Loretto?
Let me be the angel to your guys' devil on the shoulder of our audience. So, look, don't hear what I'm not saying. Do I think this is the best Spider-Man film ever? No. Does it have a lot of problems? Yes. But I want to focus on some key things here. It's miraculous that this film was coherent enough to have a start, middle, and end, considering all the shit that's crammed into it with Gwen Stacy and Eddie Brock, who's freaking Topher Grace for some reason. But despite that, Sam Raimi made a coherent film from beginning to end that thematically, minus the freaking black suit jazz club thing that I agree, Dibes, I hate that with every fiber of my being.
So cringe.
I love, because as someone that loves this franchise at the time in the theater, I didn't want to walk out, but I was like squirming in my seat, like,
I agree.
like what is happening? I agree with you guys. Okay,
he was doing the finger snap.
Oh
my god,
dude!
He's like, get on, man.
When he fixed his hair,
bro, I want to get off that. Like, fuck off, bro. This is harassment.
So look,
get off.
Hey guys, look, I get that, and I also understand that the symbiote does affect Peter's well-being. Just wasn't executed well at all. But anyways, besides that though, I love Thomas Hayden Church. His performance was subtle. It wasn't overly dramatic, and it worked for what it was. I think he was the best part of the film in terms of what they brought to the new things for Spider-Man. But I did feel the Uncle Ben thing was shoehorned in, which is unfortunate because I love that moment at the end, regardless of how it was written.
But Loretto, what isn't shoehorned in? That's the real question.
I think this is like Zack Snyder.
I think literally everything is just shoehorned in this movie.
Sam Raimi's able, like Loretto's saying, Sam Raimi's able to manage this, piece of shit and like put a bow on it, while Zack Snyder takes a piece of shit and just like lights it on fire.
Okay, wait. Before we get to let's not even bring Snyder into this. Hold on, wait a minute. So let me finish real quick.
Yeah, dude.
So Harry was a hanging thread from the first two films. He has to be in this film. That's fine. So whether you like him or not, whether you like New Goblin or not, whatever. The choreography from when freaking you knew this was coming, Pete, and they freaking have that mid-air fight, and he's like trying to get the engagement ring. I thought that was awesome. I thought that was in key with what we've already seen. It was coming because we saw Harry find the stuff at the end of the second film. So we knew it. We knew it. This was inevitable.
Loretto, can I ask you a question though?
Sure.
What would kill? I know we know what kills him. It's a stab to the gut. But like anything that doesn't have to go through his body, is there anything that will kill Harry Osborn? Because I mean, the dude suffers one of the hardest hits in mankind fucking history. Like, dude,
oh my god, when he hits like, that dude, web,
I know he's like got like super strength.
He like hits
stuff,
the garbage can.
But like, dude, his neck
like a goat falling.
Dude, he should have been dead after that.
Okay.
And then he survives an explosion next to him.
Yeah, he also had a freaking
with
pumpkin bomb blow up his face.
Only his face was blown.
Okay, hold
Burn.
up, hold
Like,
up.
what?
We're getting there. So, I also really like the sequence of
Fucking
Peter
hate this
saving Gwen
movie,
Stacy,
dog
even
shit.
though she had no fucking business being in this movie, because it just muddles up the whole freaking thing, having him kissing her and all that dumb shit.
I
Anyways,
fucking hate her so much.
so look. But what I'm saying is, like, Raimi's abilities, right? So I've seen this clip multiple times because people have done this because the internet, right? But when he
Yeah.
saves Gwen Stacy and the crane's falling, the crane
It's a
like
cool
knocks off half
scene.
the building, that was fantastic. It was a really well-pieced action sequence, but it just sucks because it's in the middle of this dog shit written movie, and I agree with you guys. But when we get to the end too, I don't like Mary Jane being the damsel in distress. It is what it is.
I hate it
But
so much.
Third time in a row, baby. Put that
But
night on,
but
bitch.
but thematically though, I like Harry's redemption, him joining with Spidey, taking on these monumental villains, because regardless of the context, regardless of how shitty Topher Grace is, Venom and Sandman and like seeing New Goblin and Spider-Man take them on as a tag team, I thought that was really cool. I thought that was an element that I enjoyed. And seeing the death of Harry too, I think it gave a finality to the trilogy, and it gave an emotional weight that was needed, regardless of how we got there. So those are my positives to this superhero.
Bro, okay, I'm going straight into negative. Sorry, Loretto. You're being too nice for my well-being right now. But
So bad, Christian.
Well, one
I
of us
got
has to do it. We can't all dump on it.
the thing that I hate the most about this movie has got to be the character choices. Every choice a character makes in this movie is just the wrong choice. No one makes a good choice. Everyone just constantly just keeps making wrong choices. And bro, I feel like they know they keep making wrong choices because they know they're in a really fucking awfully productive movie behind the scenes. So they need to figure out how to keep this movie going forward. So they have to keep putting themselves in issues. That's really what the ultimate problem of this is. Because bro, why would Peter just tell Gwen to kiss him with his girlfriend right there? Like, bro, and then he sees no issue with it later. Like, bro, what is up with that? That's no sense. Mary Jane kind of just randomly gets obsessively compulsive about wanting to be famous. Like, I know they kind of set up in the early movies that, oh, she wants to go on Broadway. She was doing good in the second movie, but then she gets like super jealous of Spider-Man by this third film. And I assume this is what, 6-7 years later at this point. So he's been Spider-Man for 6 or 7 years. And I'm just like, so you start getting jealous once you get fired for not being fucking talented. I'm like, sweetheart, do you not know the city that you live in? You live in fucking New York City. Like, bro, you gotta like live with it. And
I think the biggest thing I think what they were trying to like sell here in that scene, Ryan, is that Peter, for the first time, had all this love from the city. This was his first time just being everyone loving him. You know, he's got all this love from MJ, which is great. But now he's got the entire city loving him, and all the kids are loving him. He did it not just to like make, and he was blinded by that because he did that not to make MJ jealous, but he did it for good photos, and he did it for people to keep loving him. But I agree, it didn't feel right, especially for a grounded Spider-Man that we saw in the first two movies. But I think that was the purpose of that, to make it show that like Peter's just completely obsessed with his self-image.
She's unbearable. I can't stand her.
I didn't mind the moment because of the drama, but in reality, and as a human being that loves his wife, he probably could have kissed her on the cheek. You know, he could have got away with that, and that would have been like, oh, yay, pictures, you know, like, but no, he did it, you know, like, so.
And there's this one argument
Same
in
way,
the
it
movie.
was the same, like, go pull the mask down, and oh, I feel so bad for MJ.
That was their kids. You did our kids.
There's an argument in this movie that really bothers me as well. And I'm trying to remember like what exactly the entire argument was about. But I remember MJ was saying, Peter, I want you to stop talking and just relate to me. And I remember thinking throughout the whole conversation, I'm like, bro, his whole reply is him relating to you. Like, why are you telling him to shut the fuck up and relate to you when he's relating to you and trying to help you figure out your situation? And like the whole Harry stuff and being an amnesiac and shit like that. I'm like, Jesus Christ, bro. Can you guys fit any more fucking plot lines into this movie?
Yeah.
Holy shit. Like, literally, I've seen this movie God knows how many times. I'm watching it earlier today. I'm like, oh my God, I forgot he was in this movie. Like, bro, how the fuck does that happen? How? How do I just randomly forget when I've seen this movie God knows how many times already? Like, holy shit.
Yeah.
That's just me though, but I gotta say though, I do like the third act, like from the fighting to the visual effects. It looks really good. It feels really good. It feels like Spider-Man, and I finally feel like I will say Tobey Maguire does feel like he did give it his best in this movie. Well, you can tell that Sam Raimi really just gave up, which I'm not trying to say is like an insult, but more so as an observation.
And just quick, we also got that one scene of James Franco when she asked him like, "How do you like the pie?" and he goes, "So good,
So good, dude.
so good,
know, so good. What?
It's the best."
But Christian said she complains about him being Spider-Man. That's exactly what it was. She's like, you don't know what it's like for people to hate you. I'm like, bro, that was the entire second movie. Literally, no one liked him. I didn't even like him, and the audience didn't even like him in the
He didn't
second
like
movie.
himself.
Yeah, but dude, literally no one liked him in the second movie. That was the entire second movie, bro. Like, of course. Of course.
So
That's like
hold on, real quick, because we know I got to bring some positivity here. Some positivity. We're dumping on this film, but I just want to say, can we shout out the supporting cast of the entire trilogy? Like
No.
like the landlord and his daughter. By the way, when he was fucking mean to dude, that was probably the only cool part about him being an asshole as a symbiote, because that was actually pretty funny. You'll get the rent when I give it to you, right? Like,
Go ahead. No,
but also Parker Posey, who, God, I hate that this movie failed, because also Dylan Baker as Dr. Connor, the original Dr. Connor. We had so much groundwork to see the Black Cat, to see the Lizard, but this movie fucked that up, and that's so frustrating. But yeah, shout out to the supporting cast, man. Great.
Could you imagine if they set up like? Could you imagine if they set up like Eddie Brock in the Daily Bugle or something like that, and then had Betty Brant maybe be the relationship in like the third movie? Like it was all there. It was.
Oh no,
like,
but
did not need Gwen in this movie.
Yeah, wow, shocker. Deebs, another plot line that was not needed. Who would have guessed?
But like Elizabeth Banks is terrific. Like that, she would have been awesome in the third movie. Like, why did they
Leo knows what's up. We've been on this team forever. Spider-Man 2 overall, baby. Let's go.
No supremacy. But with the unfortunate disaster that is Spider-Man 3, let's get into like some final thoughts and some a final grade.
Thank you, Matt. You'll get your rent when you fix this damn door.
You're a good woman. Yeah. I'm a good man. That's it.
Love that guy. That guy's great. He's great.
Oh, God.
All right. Sorry, Ryan. Go ahead.
So, Deebs, my man, what is your final thoughts and what would you grade this movie?
I just actually watched this right before I jumped on, and it was a little bit better than I remembered, especially Harry's redemption. That clicked a little bit better than I first remembered it. Especially in that third act, I was digging him, even though the whole Butler thing is just completely cringeworthy. I like that element. I like the Sandman pieces of it, literally, pun intended. However, this is obviously a super convoluted movie. There's way too much going on. This is a great example why studios need to stay the fuck out of a visionary, out of a director's creative process here. There's too much going on. It's it's really exhibit A of why Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2 are so good. It just was a complete mess, top to bottom. This is a solid 6.5 out of 10 for me.
Wow. What about you, Loretto? What are your thoughts, opinions, final thoughts, and grade of Spider-Man 3?
So I was chatting with Christian in the chat, and I just want to bring up the fact that Sam Raimi did not want Venom in this film. The studio, Sony Pictures, whatever, they were trying to make this epic and monumental. They insisted on Venom in the film.
We need Venom.
and Dives, I think, hit the nail on the head. It shows that Raimi didn't care for the character.
Not at
He
all.
killed him off. He picked a complete opposite casting of who Eddie Brock even is. He picked almost the same kind of like dorky photographer as Peter Parker, just a little bit more egotistical, I guess. But it didn't work, and it sucks because Venom is such a great character, and to this day, Venom has not seen cinematic redemption. I'll just say that. Sip the tea there. Go
I
ahead.
definitely agree.
And for those who have lived and breathed the animated series, the Venom sequences where he comes from the moon and stuff is so good. It is so freaking good. The fact that we went from there to here with this origin was god awful. It was that I just wanted to like shout. That's a final thought of mine that I vividly remember being so upset, just like how they threw Doomsday into BBS, like out of nowhere. Like there were things that shouldn't happen, and this was on the top of the list for me.
Yep, you're preaching to the choir, my friend. So let me just say this. I think when you take Venom out of this film, I think you have the bones of a pretty decent film. Is it going to be as good as Spider-Man 2? Probably not. But if it was just New Goblin and Sandman, and we focused on maybe not Sandman killing Uncle Ben, but just focused on some other relationships he might have had with Peter, some other connections, and just followed Mary Jane and Peter's rocky marriage, and maybe we start to introduce a little bit of like more Dr. Connor and what's her name? Oh God, Black Cat's name? What? Felicia
Hardy.
So I think we have some bones there for a strong ending to the trilogy, but unfortunately we crammed in Venom. We have the stupid dance number and the stupid emo hair, and it drags this film down a lot. So
Vulture was getting ready for the fourth movie. Like they were getting ready for Vulture, man.
Yeah, man. Though there's a lot of things here that could have went well, but as it is, I don't hate this film. I don't love it either. What's funny is I'm being nice, but I'll do a score worse than yours, Dives. I'll do like a 6.2.
Okay.
That's how much I don't like the bad Peter here. With his
like
fucking
my thing is like when you
can't.
When you live and breathe through like Suicide Squad and Batman versus Superman and Justice League, like this is definitely a tier above those movies for me.
But can I say though, Venom brings this down a full 2 points.
No,
but listen, like if it wasn't for Venom, this would be an 8-point film for me. But because Venom's in this film, it's just gone. It's just dropped.
Yeah.
Well, Loretto, I gotta tell you something, my man. Mary Jane might as well have just killed this movie for me on top of Venom. Venom was just the ice cream, was the frosting on top of the cake that was Mary Jane. But all I'll say is this movie had a lot. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot of different ideas. And I honestly, the ideas themselves, I did enjoy. Just the execution was god awful and just all over the place. You can see the parts where they just didn't care, and it was obvious that they needed to have it in because someone above them told them they needed to, and they kind of just threw it in just to allow them to give them that stamp of approval and send it off. And it's really sad when you see that happen, and especially with a character that I love so much. And God, just some awful characters, as well as some character arcs and some awful acting. But other than that, I got
You're under 5?
What?
You're under a 5? That's like Gabe level territory right there.
I'm going to give Spider-Man 3 a 3.
Damn.
Yeah. I do not like this movie one bit. It's hard to get through. I like the action, but that doesn't keep you coming back for a movie all the time. I don't watch a movie or a superhero film just because I think the action's fucking great, but because I like much more of it as well. And just because the action's good here and not much of anything else, it's very hard to recommend this movie.
Yeah.
But without that said, boys, wow. Spider-Man 2 and 3 down the hatch. We have finished the Raimi trilogy here. That is a shocker. I mean, it really is. And
we're all still friends, right?
Yeah, we got through the diversive ones. We're fine now. It doesn't get harder than today. But yeah, guys, next Tuesday, same time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard. We will be doing the web duology with Amazing Spider-Man 1 and the Amazing Spider-Man 2. And then the following week after, on the same date and time, the week of No Way Home, we are doing the MCU films Homecoming and Far From Home, leading into our review for No Way Home on December 17th. But in the meantime, guys, be sure to look out. Deebs, is the Christmas show this Friday, right?
Nope.
Or next Friday?
Yeah, we're 2 weeks away. 2
Yeah.
weeks away.
Okay. Yeah. So 2 Fridays from now, we've
Saturday.
got the Christmas. Oh wait, I thought it was Friday. Did you move it?
Wait,
No, the
what are we
trivia I
doing?
think is Friday, right?
Yeah, the trivia thing's
Trivia
Friday.
is Friday. Sorry.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Yeah, no, I was getting to the draft. Trivia's Friday, guys. Christmas trivia. Deebs is hosting. Don't worry, we got this. And then Saturday, the very next day, me, Deebs, Loretta, we are all participating with a bunch of friends in the Christmas draft. Hope you guys can join us. And guys, don't forget, we do things on a dime sometimes. And also stay tuned tomorrow for our Hawkeye episode 3 review. Yeah, guys, check out our Twitter for dates and times for a bunch of this stuff. And yeah, obviously, check out our Twitter. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, guys. We are so close to 100 subscribers. Hopefully, we can get it by year's end. Let's try and push along. 2022 is just around the corner, guys. And yeah, is there anything else you guys want to plug real quick?
Wheel of Time on Fridays.
Yes.
Yes.
I was forgetting
guys,
something.
time to join the bandwagon. Man.
And are we doing a Hawkeye review, guys?
I said that, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I missed the last one. Sorry.
But guys, we'll see you on the next one. Peace.